Welcome to the final endings wrap-up video for Route Double. This point we're going to be covering all of the bad endings for Route D. And additionally, we're going to be covering the two good endings that we missed, and the route differences that lead us to both those two missing good endings, as well as one of the bad endings we need to get. Let's say you'll see what I mean when we get there. Essentially, how this video is going to work: we're going to run through every bad ending in this route, even the one that we've seen already. At least for that one, I'm just going to read it and then give you a little commentary afterwards. Although I can't promise that I won't give you a little commentary in the middle, especially once you get to the ones that I haven't seen before. And when it comes time to go back and find that branch point, you'll see what I mean. So this is going to be a really long video, because there's a lot going on in this route. So everything is going to be time-stamped. Check the description. And if it's not timestamped in the description, then feel free to smack me one. So, timestamps should be in the description, so you can feel free to watch what you want, come back later, pick up where you left off, and finish it out. As we finish off the main content of Route Double. Now, shall we begin? Okay, we're going to start out with one we've seen already. After our first time through Watase's memories, Natsuhiko's first instinct is to go, "Oh, let's destroy Watase's memories again." So, if we value Yuri and Natsuhiko above Watase here. Wait, is it even possible to repair those memories while exposed to that malice? Natsuhiko felt like the truth would slip further away from him if he did erase Watase's memories again. Watase kept drawing closer. No time to hesitate. Natsuhiko dove into Watase's memories once more to destroy them. He'll kill both me and Yuri if I try to be picky about which memories to destroy. To destroy all of them again. It's the only way. All of Watase's memories were floating before Natsuhiko's eyes. Please, just shatter that wish. All those scenes burst apart and vanished into darkness. His consciousness was in an endless darkness. World where everything was closed off. Sight, hearing, touch, smell, taste. He'd been disconnected from all his senses. Didn't feel like there was a world around him for him to experience at all. Where am I? Didn't know. His head was a total blank. What is this? All he could sense was a feeling of loss. What's going on? Felt like he was lacking anything definitive. How did this happen? Once he desperately searched for the cause, thought he heard someone calling for him. The man opened his eyes as if that voice were compelling him to. Right in front of him were an unfamiliar boy and girl, both looking at his face with concern. The girl gasped at that question. It was like he'd said something completely unbelievable.
でもどうしようもないだろ。こいつには悪いけど、やっぱりこうするしか。
The man looked at the two in confusion. The girl was hanging her head with a sad look on her face, while a bitter expression adorned the boys. He couldn't tell what they were arguing about. This Captain Kasasagi they were talking about probably referred to him. Wait, huh? Huh? Who? When the man realized he couldn't remember anything, he instinctively raised his voice at the children, but they did not answer.
とにかく、渡瀬の記憶はあの被験体 N という女の子に操作されて、悪意を凄まじく増幅させられていたらしい。ひょっとしたら、みんなも渡瀬同様、あの悪意に囚われてるのかもしれない。
ジュンさんとか、立花さんも？
ああ、多分。危険だけど、みんなの悪意をどうにかしなきゃ。
The children continued their incomprehensible conversation without paying any heed to the man. The only thing you could vaguely understand was that something strange was going on. The man repeated his question as many others ran through his brain.
おい、答えてくれ。君たちは誰だ？俺は誰なんだ？
それは。
ここはどこだ？一体何が起こってるんだ？頼む、答えてくれ。
Those questions rendered them silent. The boy then seemed to resolve himself and spoke to the man.
お前はここで待っていろ。
待ってろって。
外に出ると危険なんだ。ここから。
The man was overwhelmed by the boy's intensity and nodded on instinct. When he did, the boy turned to the girl and spoke.
行こう、ユーリ。
After that exchange, the two of them walked up to a metal door that appeared to be the exit. The girl then pressed a panel next to that door several times, and they tottered out of the room. The man waited quietly in the room for a while afterwards, but neither of them came back. What's going on? Where did they go? With anxiety taking hold of him, the man tried to leave the room. For some reason, there was a wall right outside the door blocking his path.
なんだこれ。
He banged on the wall, but it didn't budge at all. What's going on? How did those kids get past this? He reluctantly returned to the room. First things first, I gotta do something about that wall. Looked around the room to see if there were any tools to break the wall down, when the panel next to the door caught his eye. Wait, that's right, that girl was fiddling around with this panel before she left the room. Is that the key to opening that door? The man tried tapping the panel, but the random combination of numbers he put in was only met with the sound of a buzzer. The wall showed no signs of opening. One, 4. Alright. After many failed attempts, the man finally gave up.
くそ、闇雲に押しても無駄か。言われた通りにするしかないみたいだな。
The man decided to quietly wait for the kids to return, all the while struggling against the anxiety of not knowing who he was. However, no matter how long he waited, they never returned. He'd already been locked in the room for quite a while. Something must have happened. Maybe it was still happening.
いくらなんでも遅すぎる。大丈夫なんだろうか、彼らは。
The man checked his watch. Time was 6:17 p.m. Huh? Something about this time rings it. That moment. Boom! A thunderous roar suddenly rose up from behind him. What's happening? Sound and shockwaves rapidly grew in intensity. Just as he was preparing to flee, the door in front of him burst inwards. The flames of an explosion surged into the room. Why are there The man was completely incinerated before he could even finish that thought. Game over. Faced Investigator, result of erasing Watase's memories. May be able to avert this fate by setting an appropriate balance for Watase, Natsuhiko, and Yuri's senses at the SSS input right before this ending. Simple enough as endings go. Yeah, obviously we know the right choice is to dive in and try and do some emergency memory therapy on Watase. And if we value our own safety above Watase's, or too highly above Watase's, I don't actually know the balance. I don't actually remember the balance of the right choice there. If we value ourselves too highly above Watase, then we just willingly discard Watase, try and finish the game on our own, and die horribly. If you notice, there were actually 3 answer options at that senses sympathy input. You'll find out why in a moment. We'll find out why there's a 3rd answer here. The right answer is to value Watase's safety above our own and dive back into his memory. Value our own too highly, we wipe Watase's memory and die horribly. The 3rd choice is to just, what appears to be, do nothing. Let's find out what happens if we do that. It's no good. I don't know what I should do. Couldn't come to a conclusion. In that moment of hesitation, Watase stole the gun from Natsuhiko. He's gonna shoot. Right after that thought crossed his mind. Yuri! Fresh blood danced in the air to the sound of a dry whistle. Something happened to Natsuhiko's body. Yuri had promptly dived in front of him. A gasp seeped from Natsuhiko's lips as Yuri's body crumpled to the floor.
Yuri!
Natsuhiko lifted her in his arms. His hands then came into contact with something warm and sticky. Oh jeez. A great river of blood seeping from Yuri's head. Yuri spoke with a fading voice. Well, shit. This CG looks familiar. That was all Yuri said before falling silent.
Yuri! Yuri!
Natsuhiko shook her body. There was no response. You could feel life slipping away from her body. Yuri was dead. Natsuhiko screamed once he realized that fact.
Watase!
Natsuhiko gave into emotion and grabbed at Watase. Watase's hand was still wrapped around his gun. The gun spouted fire once more, but this time the bullet hit Natsuhiko. He felt an intense impact in his stomach. His legs lost strength and he nearly collapsed. Natsuhiko steeled his feet and glared at Watase.
Watase.
痛いだろそれが渡るの痛みだ
Natsuhiko focused his mind as he heard that cold voice. I'll use sense of sympathy once more. Blow all his memories away. Natsuhiko withstood the intense pain and tried to invoke that ability, but then...
渡るの痛みを思い知れコミュニケーターども
Watase shouted with rage as he pulled the trigger. An intense shock ran through Natsuhiko's left chest. But he withstood the pain regardless. Another gunshot blared and he felt intense pain in his eye. Oh, Jesus. Fifth gunshot and he felt his throat rupture. Jesus. Even so, Natsuhiko stood firm. The voiceless shout, Natsuhiko used the last of his ability. Destroy all of the memories that composed Watase's mind. He heard Watase's pained voice, but Natsuhiko still did not let up. Destroy every last memory in your mind. You won't leave even the smallest one behind. Watase's agonized voice continued, but Natsuhiko still did not let up. I'll burn your brain to dust. Burn in hell, Watase. One moment, Natsuhiko heard that feeble voice. The next, he heard Watase collapse. I did it. At that moment, Natsuhiko's body reached its limit as well. He slowly collapsed on the spot. Is this as far as I go? There's nothing more that Natsuhiko could do. Yeah, you're not surviving these gunshots, unfortunately. Mustered the last remaining bit of his strength to grasp Yuri's hand. Sorry, Yuri. In the end, I couldn't protect you. Natsuhiko's mind was full of regret. At that moment, he thought he felt Yuri grasp his hand back. Yuri. And hand in hand, their short lives came to a close. Well, that was brutal. Hesitant Enthusiast, result of not making an important decision. Maybe able to avert this fate by making a friggin' decision. Or this ending. Pretty much what you'd expect to happen. Pretty much what you'd expect. For, in that moment, not making a call. You die. Not much more to say there than that. Other than that was awfully brutal. And that scene title, too, was, felt awfully fitting. Don't want to be alone at the end of the world? We're gonna be, together with Yuri. And we're gonna take Watase with us. We're all going to hell together. Ooh-wee. Next up, we get to advance a bit further into the game. And we'll see if the other RAM segments can give us bad endings. Do you remember there were cases where you could unlock the final memory without actually purging all the malice? We'll see if that comes up. I think we're actually going to try this. Now we had too low, too high, and right in the middle. I think this was the right answer. For old time's sake, let's do this route.
どうして？
ここは国策に関わる研究をしているんだ。むやみに情報を探らない方がいい。
This is the
そんなことをすると君の身が危険だ。
the sexy route. Said that, a bewitching smile suddenly rose to Anna's face.
なんだ、そういうことだったの。本当に私を心配してくれてるのね。
え？ああ、まあ。
頼りなさそうだったけど、意外にいいとこあるじゃない。
Anna said that, then drew up close to Ukita.
なんだね。
別に。ただ、優しいなって思って。
優しい？
ほら、こういう状況の時ってやっぱり男の人に頼りたくなるじゃない？でも隊長さんってちょっと怖そうなところがあるから。
True, Watase was like that, but
私ね、ああいうガサツな男より真面目な人が好きなの。
Anna then touched Ukita's arm. Uh-oh, second base. An electrical current ran through Ukita's body at that moment.
今はそういう話をしている時かね。それに森部君もいるというのに。
あら、あの小娘ならどこかに行っちゃったわよ。
え？あ、
Jun had left the room without him even noticing it.
邪魔者がいなくなったところで今後の話をしない？
今後の話って。
無事脱出するためにはチームワークが必要よね。でも私たち親密さが足りないと思うの。だからね、その親密さをもっと高めたいと思うのよ。
If you know what I mean.
それは。
Before Ukita could finish, the door behind him suddenly opened up. Turned around in surprise to see Jun, Watase, and the others standing there. Jun had probably called them over. Watase was glaring at Ukita.
何やってんだ、あんたら。
Anna immediately separated herself from Ukita at that moment and spoke.
知らないわよ。私がこのパソコンをいじっていたら急に浮田さんが怒り出して腕をつかまれてお説教されてたの。
Ukita felt a moment's astonishment run through him when he heard Anna's lie, but then Cosme cut in.
浮田さん、どういうことかご説明願えますか？
いや、機密情報に触れないように注意していたんだ。第5エリアから先は機密のレベルも極めて高い。ここから生きて出ることができたとしても、ここで見たことを外で公言しない方がいいだろう。思いもよらないトラブルに巻き込まれる可能性があるからね。
While he was giving his explanations, a pool of doubt welled up within Ukita. What is that woman's deal? What was she trying to achieve by talking that way to me earlier? And it was totally calm at that moment, the complete opposite of the way she'd acted just minutes ago. As if she'd forgotten all about that. Does she seduce men so she can try to get them to do her bidding? Now they looked over her carefully, Anna was quite a beautiful and glamorous woman. Perhaps she used her own body as bait to lure ordinary men. Why did she try to seduce me? However, in the end, Ukita never got a step closer to answering that question. Natsuko thought to himself as he finished viewing that memory, what the fuck? It's not that I don't get where you're coming from, Mr. Ukita, but I doubt Professor Tsubakiyama is that kind of person. That said, looks like repairing this one's going to be a little tricky. Should probably readjust his feelings for Teach to a more natural level. And that was the state of Ukita's altered memories. Has this been enough to fix Mr. Ukita's memories?
ヒコリン、もし不安なら、もう一度修復を繰り返すこともできるんだよ。
Right. Besides, it doesn't feel like this is the end of it either. Back when he'd erased Watase's malice, Subject N's spirit had still been in Watase's brain, even after he'd repaired all his memories. It was highly probable that it was still in Mr. Ukita's brain as well. I have to erase her to bring Mr. Ukita back to normal. Natsuko steeled his resolve, then slipped away from that memory. Oh yeah, we've cleared that, but we can still go in here. Let's do it. Natsuko then arrive. We're actually going to skip through this and see if anything changes. Here we go, new scene, Fatal Error. Memory started right at the point where Ukita saw Subject N's body. Dear Lord! Ukita stood a bit far away from the girl, paralyzed with shock. His mind went blank at the tragic sight of the girl he wanted to save, reduced to a lifeless body.
バイタルチェックを。
Cosme ran up to Subject N and wrapped her vital checker around the girl's arm.
コンディション、オールレッド。投稿3台。森部、手伝いなさい。心肺蘇生を行います。
はい。
The two rescue workers then laid Subject N on the floor right away and began performing CPR. 15 compressions, 2 rescue breaths. 15 compressions, 2 rescue breaths. The light did not return to Subject N's eyes. Ukita muttered.
もう死んでる。
Indeed, Subject N was dead. Anyone could clearly see that. Yet the rescue workers did not give up. 15 compressions, 2 rescue breaths, 15 compressions, 2 rescue breaths. Ukita called out to them one more time.
君たちは救えなかったんだ。
And then,
僕も。
color rapidly faded from Ukita's world the moment he accepted that fact. That's right, I couldn't save her. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's my fault. I killed you. If I hadn't deluded myself with thoughts of saving you. Natsuko dumbfoundedly watched Ukita's thoughts accelerate. Did I mess up? Did I not repair his memories enough? Oh, this is interesting. Natsuko continued to view the memory, having no way of confirming his failure. At that moment, another Ukita whispered into Ukita's mind. Uh-oh. No, at the end of the day, is that really true? Was it really your fault she died? What do you mean? It wasn't my fault, and who else could it have been? You're listening to yourself. Don't you see the suspicious people right there with you? This is Subject N using his... talking like him. Go ahead, remember. Remember those 3 who could have possibly taken Subject N away back then. Aren't Tojiba and Hiyama already dead? Precisely. That would mean Captain Kasasagi is the one who conspired to ruin everything. But he has amnesia! Even if he did get amnesia, he could have killed Subject N before that happened, right? I see. There's one other suspicious person, isn't there? Miss Tsubakiyama. What's the teacher doing here? How did she sneak into Labo? That's right. Both Captain Kasasagi and Ena Tsubakiyama are suspicious. There's one other person. Yes, the one who's looking at me right now. You... Oh shit, hi! Just then, Natsuko's consciousness was wrapped up in an intense floral scent. Oh shit. Huh? When he came to his senses, he was outside Labo. What? When he finished muttering that, a voice called out from behind.
ここは僕の中に初めて正義が芽生えた時の光景さ。
Natsuko quickly turned around to see a girl standing there.
被験体 N
Oh boy. I'm not gonna lie, this is cool as hell.
いや、違う。僕は被験体 N ではない。かといって無論、浮田刑事本人とも違うがね。
She was talking much differently than the spirit of Subject N that Natsuko had encountered in Watase's head. Much like how that spirit's speech and personality had been strongly influenced by Watase, this one had most likely been influenced by Ukita. Natsuko talked back to her as she thought that.
じゃあ何なんだ悪意の権化か
悪意の権化？ご挨拶だね。君だって僕に共感したくせに。
僕がお前に共感しただって
隠すことはないよ。君は浮田の記憶を見て理解したはずだ。浮田の正義を。彼が被験体たちを人生を通して救おうとしたこと。だが彼に待ち受けていたのは何だった？そう、救いたかった少女の死だ。
Yeah, we didn't fully fix his memories, so we're still focused on
ではな
this.
ぜそうなった？そう、裏切り者がいたから。ではそれは誰だった？
It almost feels like fully fixing a malice-infected subject's memories. It's, actually affects the subject N that's left behind in your mind.
僕の 一人も犠牲者を出したくないという願いを裏切ったのは誰だった？
Like, if we purify all the malice, then the Nagisa remnants becomes easier to suppress.
そう。今君が思い浮かべた相手がそうだ。隊長さんが浮田を裏切ったのだ。だから僕は浮田の背中を押し、彼を殺すことにした。僕らの正義に基づいてね。
何が正義だ。
Natsuko glared at her in defiance of the proclamation she had just turned at him.
お前はおじさんの心に取り付いて、おじさんの正義感を餌に悪意を育てているだけじゃないか。
Isn't that right? Yeah, I'm just gonna say yes now.
悪意ね。そんなものがどこにあったというのかね。僕と浮田、被験体を救い出したいと思っているだけなの。そのために隊長さんを排除する。そうしなければもう一人の被験体の被験体 Y2 の脱出が叶わないだろうからね。
Those words reminded Natsuko of Yuri's deal with Watase. She was right. If he kept leaving Watase to his own devices, he'd eventually take Yuri away. I can't accept that, but...
でもだからって渡瀬を排除するなんて。
胸が痛むかね。
ああ、
それもわかるが、しかし君にとって本当に大切なものは何なのか考えてみたまえ。隊長さんのことを案じるということは、つまり被験体 Y2 のことをないがしろにするのと同じなのだ。君はそれでいいのかね。
Natsuko's worries grew stronger with that question. Yuri spent 9 years confined in the this dark underground facility, all for me. Yet if I still care about Watase after all that, wouldn't that equate to betraying Yuri? It was gradually tainting his thoughts. Malice time. He didn't know what. Subject N pressed on.
時には心を鬼にしなければ大切なものは守れない。浮田も僕もそう思ったのだが、君はどうか。
僕は
答えてくれ。君はどうしたいんだ。
僕は
But right before Natsuko could answer that question, Yuri's voice echoed in his head.
待ってヒコリン、その子の言葉に耳を貸しちゃダメ。
ユーリ、
Natsuko then turned his questions to her.
どうしてダメなんだ。被験体 N は間違ったことは言っていないだろう。
Whoops.
君はこのままじゃラボを脱出しても自由になれないんだぞ。渡瀬に連れて行かれてQに入れられて、そうなったらいろんな危険な目にも遭うだろう。もちろん家に帰ることなんてできない。もう一度聞くよ。ユーリは本当にそれでいいのか。そんなわけないよな。自由になって僕と一緒に家に帰りたいよな。
And it's done.
僕はそのためなら
The
どんなことだってするよ。
The pact is sealed.
君のためならどんなことだってしてあげる。だからこれから僕のやることを止めないでくれないか。
When she heard that, Yuri finally answered after a long silence.
そうだね。ヒコリン、私ずっと間違ってた。自分がそうしてもみんなが幸せであればそれでいいなんて。
On the one hand, this is a good realization for her to come to. On the other hand, this is not going to end well.
そんなの絶対嘘なのに。私だって 本当は人並みに幸せになりたいのに。
And the Malice train goes on.
分かってるよユーリ。だから僕は君の幸せのために渡瀬と戦うよ。浮田のおじさんみたいに。
ありがとう、ヒコリ。
Natsuko nodded, then looked straight at Subject N.
被験体 N、 すまなかった。君の言う通りだ。
そうか、ようやく分かってくれたか。
She smiled happily after she said that.
では現実に帰りたまえ。それをするのは肉体を持つ君の役目だ。
ああ、
頼むぞ、君の正義を貫いてくれ。
As he listened to that voice, Natsuko cut off his sense of sympathy linked to Akita. Meanwhile, in the real world, Watase was staring at Natsuko and Yuri with a firm expression on his face. It had already been over 3 minutes since the two of them had begun repairing Yukita's memories. Neither of them showed any signs of waking up. Are they okay? Watase grew more and more nervous the more he watched the two of them standing there like statues, not budging an inch. At that moment... Uh-oh. 3 of them woke up at the same time as if it were a synchronized routine.
終わったのか。
Watase asked Natsuko that question. The boy didn't answer. He just stared hard at Watase's face.
おい、どうしたんだ。
Yuri then spoke up in a faint voice shortly afterwards.
隊長さん、ごめんなさい。やっぱり私、隊長さんと一緒には行きたくないです。
なんだって。悪いがね、隊長さん。君にユーリ君は渡さない。そういうことになったのだよ。夏彦、これはどういうことなんだ。
He trembled as he asked his question. He did. Natsuko stood up and grabbed Watase by the wrist.
どうもこうもないだろう。僕とお前は初めから敵同士だったはずじゃないか。
Oh, that expression. A shiver ran down Watase's spine at that moment. He noticed that everyone else's eyes were filled with a sinister light.
まさかお前ら全員が悪意に。
消えてくれ渡せ。今度こそ永遠に。やめろー!
Right as he shouted that, all the memories that molded Watase's personality were annihilated. After that, Natsuko, Yuri, and Ukita all looked down at the now unconscious Watase. Natsuko quietly snatched the gun out of Watase's pocket a few seconds later. Oh Jesus! Then aimed straight for Watase's head. Oh Jesus. Good Lord. The malicious performer resulted failing to remove enough malice from Ukita, and able to avert this fate by providing adequate repairs on Ukita's memories in the RAM system. Yeah, makes sense. The first time they did that made me ask if there was a bad ending for going into the final scene without clearing all the malice. I'm not surprised I was right, but I am quite impressed at how great that was. Not great as in cathartic or anything, but just it's exactly what you would expect to happen. And it fits with what we're actually doing. Weakening the little subject N in your mind, whispering naughty thoughts into your ear by getting rid of the malice she left behind. So ideally, when we purify the malice, we go in there, she's just Nagisa. Only left with the faint remnants of personality that she absorbed from said victim. If we don't eliminate all the malice, then we got a Nagisa who's all up in Adam with said victims' motivations and reasons for said victims' motivations that were really twisted. To the point where we can easily succumb. There's a few other sense of sympathy victims. We know Kazumi's does not go well, but I suppose our next stop is Jun's, since the same thing happened there. See you in a moment. Remember, after discovering Hiyama, this one was strange because it had two different outcomes and both were weird. Like, we had one outcome where, actually, let's rewind. Yeah. I think this was the right answer. Where everyone's high. I feel like this was the answer where Watase got, like, really creepy and big brotherly. And this was the answer where everyone just acted like an asshole. Why is everyone around me dying? As Jun thought to herself, Watase suddenly spoke to her. Before she even realized what was happening, Watase had wrapped his arms around her. That completely unexpected embrace left Jun at a loss for words. Oh, nope, this is the creepy outcome.
仲間を2人も失ってしまったことは確かに辛い。記憶のない俺でさえ。お前が怯えるのもわかる。お前はなんだかんだ言っても。
Yeah, this is the outcome that gets corrected.
でも今はこんなことを言うのは厳しいと思われるかもしれんが、泣いてる時じゃないんだ。そんなことじゃお前まで命を落とすかもしれない。俺はもう。そんなのは嫌だ。お前を失うなんてごめんだ。だから気を強く持ってくれ。でも。
Watase then whispered into Jun's ear. Yeah, this is like, remember that this is a false memory, but also remember that Watase has said a few things along these lines in the past, despite there being memories of Watase being the one essentially going to bat for Kazumi when she first joined Sirius. And one of Dojima and Hiyama were the awful sexist ones. Watase had a minor case. He's not immune. But he did go to bat for Kazumi once she earned his respect as a rescue worker. But there is a vampant. Like, this falsified memory behavior isn't out of nowhere, essentially. Watase then whispered into Jun's ear.
頼むよ、ジュン。気をしっかり持たないとやばそうなんだ。檜山は足を骨折しているだろう。あれがただの事故によるものじゃないとしたら、堂島を殺したやつと同じ犯人にやられた可能性がある。橘の手前、それを蒸し返すのは控えたが、やっぱりこの施設の中には殺人犯がうろついているかもしれないんだ。そいつからも身を守らなければ、本当に。
わかったよ。
Jun replied with as much courage as she could muster. Watase then answered her in a kind voice.
よし、いい子だ。
Yep, creepy head pat.
もし殺人犯に遭遇したら、その時はどうするの？
状況次第だが、俺なら叩きのめすだろうな。
レスキュー隊員が暴力を？
バカ、そんなこと言ってる場合か。相手は殺人犯なんだぞ。 もしみんなを守るためにそうするしかなさそうだったらやむを得ないだろ
そうか。みんなを守るために。
Violence is justified if it's to protect everyone.
う。だがそれは男の役目だ。お前は敵に遭遇したら逃げろよ。
Watase then let go of Jun, then thought to herself while feeling the lingering sensation of his whispers in her ear and the warmth of his arms. I don't know if that killer is still here at the facility. Never find them. Do I have to fight to protect everyone? Her job as a rescue worker was to protect lives. Perhaps she needed to get her hands dirty to accomplish that job. After all, 2 of her squad mates had already been killed. No, I shouldn't think about that yet. Not until I'm sure that there's actually a killer here. Jun then changed tracks to think about something else. Pitch black will had begun to manifest in the depths of her heart. Natsuko thought to himself as he finished viewing that memory. Kind of a subtle alteration this time around. Should I adjust things so her feelings are more in tune with those of a rescue worker? And that was the state of Jun's altered memories. Will this be enough to bring Jun back to normal? There was still one other thing he had to do first. Erase the phantom subject N that was nesting in Jun's brain. She's probably just up ahead, around that memory of finding subject N's body by the cargo lift. Simpy for the devil. He's a killer queen. That moment, Natsuko was enveloped in an intense floral scent. And then... where Jun's desire to protect people came from. Suddenly realized he was standing in some unfamiliar place. Appeared to be the crumbling core of an apartment complex.
なんで急にこんなところに。
Once he muttered that, he heard a voice in front of him.
それはここが純にとってある意味始まりの場所だからだよ。
Before he realized that subject N was standing right before him.
お前、なんだよ。なんなんだこれは。純さんにとって始まりの場所ってどういうことだ。
ここはね、純が9年前大切な人を失った場所なんだ。ガス爆発にあった6名市営団地。そこで純は渚を失った。妹同然の仲だったのに救えなかったんだよ。わかるかな、その後の純の苦しみが。純は何度も考えたよ。私が弱かったから救える命も救えなかったって。だから私は強くならなきゃいけないって。そんな純が可愛くてね。だから私はあの子に教えてあげたんだよ。今日の現状は普通じゃない。もっともっと頑張らないとみんな死んじゃうよ。怪しいやつは殺してでもみんなを守らなきゃ。
Yeah, basic stuff. Simple.
そのせいで純さんはあんな風になったっていうのか。
私のせいみたいに言わないでくれるかな。あれはつまり純が望んだことだよ。
やめろ。純さんはそんな人じゃない。
そう、本当にそう言える？あんたが純の何を知ってるのさ。
何って。
君は見たはずだよね、ここまでの純の記憶を。でもどうだった？純は君が思い描いているような人だった？人間一皮むけばそこにどんな正体が隠れているかなんてわからないんだよ。命がかかった状況だと 醜い正体だって現れやすくなる。君にも思い当たる節があるんじゃない？
Her words caused Natsuko to realize something. Not one to talk either, am I? I tried to kill Watase once. I was planning on erasing him once I got out of here, too.
おや、やっぱなんか思い当たっちゃったみたいだね。
いやでもあれは仕方なく。
仕方なく何をしようとしたの？
渡瀬を殺そうと。
誰かを守るために？
そうだ。だって他に方法がなかったから。
それでいいんだよ。
All good, bro. No need to apologize.
他に方法がないときはさ、そうする以外にはないよね。そうしなきゃ守るべき人も守れないんだもん。
Natsuko gulped at those words. She's right. Once you lose the ones precious to you, it's too late to do anything about it. Once that thought crossed Natsuko's mind, he heard Yuri's voice.
ヒコリ、これじゃまずいよ。
You see the purple tint? This was in the last bad ending too. Purple tint means malice.
何が？
We're too late. We're already tainted.
仕方がないの。ヒコリンの思考がどんどん侵食されてる。N ちゃんの悪意が強すぎるみたい。記憶修復が不十分だったんだよ。いけるかどうかわからないけど、今すぐその子を消して。
わかった。
Natsuko gave that answer and stared at Subject N.
もう無駄話は十分だ。今すぐお前を消してやる。
おや、今さら何慌ててんの？まあいいけどね。あんたがそう言うなら、私も本気を出すよ。
Uh-oh. Anime battle. She said that to Natsuko with a glare. She's faced us. She means business now. Oh no. Her facial expression warped ominously. Even the scenery around them seemed to warp. Her power level.
さあ、勝負だよ。
Her power level's off the charts. We're losing.
私の悪意があんたの心を破壊するのが早いか。
Oh no.
あんたが私を消去するのが早いか。
It's literally a case of we repair their malice, and it takes her out of this location of power to them. Location powering their malice.
試してみようか。
Anime battle time. Oh shit, here we go. Malice descended upon Natsuko like a gale with that shout. It was full of the many negative feelings in Jun's mind. An ugly mind composed of indignation and jealousy. All that had been amplified to the nth power and was worming its way into Natsuko's mind. Natsuko could feel the malice seeping into his own mind. Pitch-black emotions began to rule his very spirit. Yuri, I can't make it! Help! Natsuko sought Yuri's help, but...
ダメ、修復が追いつかないどころか。私まで悪意に。
Uh-oh. What?
ヒコリ、これじゃ勝てない。悪意に侵食される前に一回現実に戻ろう。
Yeah. She's a killer queen. Gunpowder gelatine. Dynamite with a laser beam. Guaranteed to blow your mind. Anytime. And thus the two communicators canceled sense of sympathy at the same time. When they returned to reality, they saw Jun start moving right in front of them. Natsuko had no time to stop her. Jun, switch on the engine counter! Oh god! And slashed Natsuko diagonally from his shoulder down to his chest. Natsuko screamed at the pain that came a second too late. It hurts! It hurts! It hurts! It hurts! That was all he could manage to think. His thoughts were seeped in pain. His concentration failed. The intense pain drove away even his consciousness. In his dulled sense of hearing, he heard something in his surroundings as if it were far away. Oh god. Rip in pieces, Ukita.
やめなさい。
そうだ、お姉ちゃんのところへ。はいと。
Natsuko fainted as he heard those voices. A known amount of time passed. Eventually, Natsuko woke up.
光。
Holy shit, we lived.
ユーリ
Yuri was absent-mindedly treating the wound on Natsuko's chest. He sat himself up and then became speechless at the sight around him.
なんだよこ
Ukita and Enna were on the ground. Blood was oozing out of Ukita's chest and Enna's neck. The intense stench of blood spelled their deaths.
れユーリこれは
We fucked up!
ジュンさんが。
It really was Jun's doing. Natsuko had guessed as much, judging from the voices he had heard. But she wasn't in the room. The only other sign she'd been there was a trail of trickled blood on the floor that led outside the room.
僕らは逃がされたのか
Natsuko was wounded, but Yuri was uninjured. Mashita was still asleep on the bed. Yuri looked at the bodies and murmured.
ジュンさんにも少し理性が残っていたのかもしれないけど、でもこんなのってあんまりだよ。
Those words gouged Natsuko's heart. It's my fault. Because I didn't erase subject N properly. He happened to catch sight of a single gun lying on the floor. It was the gun Watase had left for Ukita. It appeared that at the last minute Ukita hesitated to shoot Jun, and she had killed him. Well, that's it. It's all just as she said. Left with no other option, you have to kill. Or else you can't protect those precious to you. That's why Jun killed them. This time it's my turn. Uh-oh. That moment, strength suddenly left Natsuhiko's body. Yuri panicked and peered into Natsuhiko's face. He tried to answer but couldn't use his voice. Vision was quickly growing dark. Damn it. Lost too much blood. Oh, can't die here. Can't die here and leave Yuri and the others behind. Eventually, even that emotion was engulfed by the pressing darkness. Wow. Brutal as hell in its own way. Malicious challenger, result of failing to remove enough of Jun's malice. Simple enough, but oddly beautiful in a way. I say that referring to the encounter with subject N. Not to, not to the outcome, so to speak. It's the next endings are where we're hitting a big unknown. There's one I'm certain of, which is we have to with that red choice whether to wipe Kazumi's memory or spare her. I'm not sure where the other ending would come up. Thing is, I don't know if we can actually get that ending right now. I'll try it, but there is apparently a really big route split at one point in here, which really only changes like Watase's attitude towards Natsuhiko, but I'm pretty sure that ending is exclusive to that route split. And that's we're gonna do that in this video anyways, because we need to take that route split in order to get these two endings. But we'll give it a shot. See if we can get it our first time. And then I'm not sure what... That's so close to the end, I feel like it's number 6, so I'm not sure what number 5 would be. We'll check up on that then. And we will see you momentarily. We'll see what happens here. But let's see what our choices are. Saver. So interesting that the choices we're given are max for both or min for both. Let's see what happens if we pick min. Can't just go and use sense of sympathy. That was the route Natsuhiko had chosen. Not sure if I can return Miss Tachibana to normal now that she's been consumed so deeply by the malice. There's only one route left to take. That thought in mind, Natsuhiko sent telepathy to Watase.
渡瀬、今僕が橘さんの注意を引きつける。その間に橘さんを気絶させるんだ。それしか方法はない。
Watase's face stiffened instantly, but he nodded faintly. Same time, Natsuhiko sent full-force telepathy to Kazumi.
橘さん!
The intense telepathy shook Kazumi's body for a second. At that moment, Watase shot off like a bullet, pushing Jun aside. Jun staggered and lost her balance. Watase took that opening to rush straight for Kazumi.
Kazumi!
Watase howled. Kazumi just pointed her gun at Watase with a sad look on her face. Pulled the trigger. Shit! Watase's body shook as if struck by lightning. His feet froze on the spot. His chest was soon stained red. He muttered that and collapsed. Jun's hollow voice spilled out. What? Ukita spoke softly and stepped up to Kazumi. Kazumi wordlessly turned her gun towards Ukita and pulled the trigger. She shot Ukita in the chest and abdomen, and then he fell on the spot. He convulsed 2 or 3 times, but that soon stopped as well. Kazumi then smiled at Jun. Oh no.
さよなら、ジュン。
She then pointed the muzzle at her own temple and pulled the trigger. The upper half of Kazumi's face snapped like pomegranate. Oh, Jesus. The descent to her knees almost looked like it happened in slow motion. A whimper spilled out of Jun's lips. That whimper soon grew into a scream. It was all over in such a short amount of time. Natsuko could do nothing but watch in shock. He had no words. Jun's voice sounded so far away. His thoughts came to a standstill. Why? Why did this happen? Watase was dead. So was Ukita. And Kazumi. The -3 in the scene title. Watase's death meant the deal was void. Now Yuri was free. However, we still had to escape. Is this the ending I wished for? What else could he have done? Natsuhiko did not know. As he stood still, dumbfounded, Sally walked up to him and spoke.
ひとまず、事態は収束した。
Still gonna blow up. Natsuhiko twitched and looked at Sally. He was about to scold her for her cold tone of voice. He saw the sorrowful look on her face, and Natsuhiko found himself at a loss for words once more. Sally continued speaking in his silence.
でも、これで全ての危機が終わったわけじゃない。ゼロエリアの爆弾のこと。あれは解体不可能で、しかも、核兵器解放の前に爆発する。
Natsuhiko, Yuri, Marshall, and Anna's eyes widened in shock. Sally explained the details of the bomb to Natsuhiko's group, about why they couldn't disarm it and why the lockdown timer was off, and how at this rate everyone would die in the explosion.
そんな
The news shook up Natsuhiko's group. They all began to speak with quivering voices.
このままここにいたらみんな死んでしまうの。今すぐ脱出方法を考えなきゃ。
そんなの無茶よ。私たちが6時間も探して何も見つけられなかったのに。
Sally fell silent at the questioning. And it was quite right. There was no plausible way they could conveniently find a new exit route this late in the game. But still, we need to do something. Time was 6:02 p.m. Only 15 minutes left until the bomb went off. Yuri spoke fearfully to Natsuhiko.
どうしよう。
とにかくここにいたらみんな死んじまう。少しでも安全なところに避難しよう。
安全なところって？
爆弾はゼロエリアに仕掛けられている。そこで発生した爆風がどんな風に拡散するのかは予測できないけど、爆心地から一番遠い場所、つまり第2エリア非常階段の隔壁の前に行けば少しだけ生存率は上がるはずだ。
そこに行けば生き残れるのかしら。
わからないけど、それにかけるしかないでしょ。
Couldn't think of any other options. Anna spoke to Jun in a pained voice.
森部さん、ここにいると確実に死んでしまうわ。行きましょう。
Jun still hadn't moved away from Watase's and Kazmi's corpses. Jesus, the poor girl. She didn't answer Anna's call.
森部さん、じゃあ手伝って。私一人じゃ怪我人を運べないわ。
やだ。
Anna walked briskly towards Jun and grabbed her by the neck. Oh, Jesus.
やって何よ。あなたレスキュー隊員でしょ。任務を放棄するの？
大事な人2人も死んじゃって、2人も私1人になっちゃって、その上まだ任務？あんた何言ってんの？レスキュー隊員だって人間なんだよ。悲しむ権利もないっての？
そういうご託はいいのよ。私だって同僚2人ここで亡くしてるの。でも立ち止まらないでここまで来たのよ。いいから手伝いなさい。そうしないと今すぐ私があなたを殺してあげるわ。
Anna's voice was steeped in sadness. After hearing all that, Jun finally nodded reluctantly. Anna led the group of 6 up to the bulkhead. Time was 6:08 p.m. Only 9 minutes left until the explosion. They endured their fear and waited for that moment. Mind-crushing silence was eventually shattered when Jun broke the ice.
夏彦君、あんたさ、BC でお姉ちゃんの悪意を消すことができたはずなんだよね。
はい。
どうしてやってくれなかったの？
I tried. Jun slowly sidled up to him. Her eyes were filled with rage. Uh-oh.
あんた、お姉ちゃんと隊長と浮田さんを見殺しにしたの？
違う。
I wasn't ready for the anime final boss.
違うんです。そうするのが難しい状況だったんです。そうですよ、ジュンさん。夏彦に何でもかんでも求めるのは分かってる。ただ知りたかっただけ。夏彦くんがどういうつもりだったのか、何を思って BC を使うのをやめたのか。
Jun went right up into Natsuhiko's face. Right as Natsuhiko's heart froze from the piercing stare. Oh! A thunderous roar suddenly rose up from beneath him. Here it comes. For a second, Natsuko's body shook. Then something covered him. Uh-oh. It was Jun. Jun embraced Natsuko and Yuri to cover them. Oh no. In the corner of his vision, he saw Enna covering Mashiro and Salyu. Oh jeez. The moment the six of them became a single lump, a scorching explosive blast rushed into the emergency stairwell. Natsuko desperately embraced Yuri. Intense heat and shock enveloped his back. You could hear a sound echoing from somewhere. Natsuko's consciousness was in a shattered world. Sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, all of his senses had been ravaged. He couldn't see anything, even if he opened his eyes. His nose filled with a burning stench. And the stench of blood. Natsuko tried calling everyone's names. His voice wouldn't come out. An unintelligible groan. He reluctantly mustered his energy to send telepathy. He heard groans here and there, as if in reply. And there were no other responses. He didn't hear Enna or Jun. Natsuko tried using his voice once again, but something else came out of his throat. Uh-oh. Oh, that's bad. A clump of blood. Something was piercing his chest. Oh no. He tried to take it out, but his body wouldn't move. He could no longer move even a finger. He could no longer even maintain the concentration to even use telepathy. At the same time, he heard the sound of people rushing towards them. And his fading consciousness, Natsuko thought to himself. Security. Sector 6. Ominous voices echoed in his ears. That was the last thing Natsuko heard. Ah, number 6. The result of not making an important decision. Yeah, that's the two different, the two outcomes that end badly for us in this route. Not making a decision, and not purging malice. And yet at the same time, given all the story that's built up so far, they've all been amazing. Worth going back for. Okay, so when you see this in the playlist, it's going to be presented out of order. Number 6 is going to come first. Well, it's going to be presented out of order, provided I remember to present it out of order. Because to get number 5, we're going to have to go back and find the decision point where we swing Watase's mood towards Natsuhiko. We're going to show you all the scenes that changed when it comes down to changing Watase's mood towards Natsuhiko. We're going to show off this bad end, and we're going to show off the 2 final ends, the 2 final good ends. Which, by the way, swinging Watase's feelings towards Natsuhiko for the worst, that locks us out of the true end. It gets us these 2 ends. Alright. Well, that's next up. Get ready, because here we go. Now, I believe this is the point where this would diverge. As you can see, we have 2 choices. Put Watase first, or put Natsuhiko first. So let's put Natsuhiko first, and see how this changes. The damage from the erasures had accumulated, leaving Watase's brain at what might be its limit. So if Natsuhiko erased his memories one more time, it could quite possibly be fatal. But that's the only way I can save Yuri. He could think of no other method. So at the end of his inner conflict, he was able to justify his conclusion. It's okay. It's okay. I'm sure Watase's brain can withstand just one more erasure. Besides, it'd be for the best for Watase's sake as well. Because at heart, he's not a terrorist, but a rescue worker. When he had lost his memories, Watase was a man amongst men who risked his life to save others. And he was the same way before he had learned the truth behind his family's death and joined Q for revenge. So once everything's over, I'll erase Watase's memory as a terrorist, returning to him to how he was originally. I see how this influences the final ending split. Because when we stop ourselves from even thinking about the prospect of erasing Watase's memory, we get to the final true end split, and we absolutely refuse to erase Watase one way or another. And Watase will finally be free from all wicked intentions. Natsuko decided to believe his plan was the right thing to do. Besides, Watase might change his mind before we get out of Labo. It's a low possibility, but let's just hope for the best. With that in mind, Natsuko called out to Watase.
どうした黙り込んで俺がユーリを連れて行くことに納得できないか
当然です。納得なんかとてもできませんが、今は言い争っている時間がありません。ひとまずあなたの提案を受け入れます。生き延びなければ全て無意味になりますから。
Let's see if we've caught up to the main route. We have.
僕はあなたが嫌いです。
何
当たり前でしょ。あなたはいくら悪意に感染していたとはいえ、僕らをコミュニケーターだという理由で殺そうとした。
This is new. At least that line, shouldn't it be obvious? So if you've got a more brusque attitude towards Watase?
その上使命のためとはいえ、有利をさらうなんて言い出す人を好きになれるわけありませんよ。
そうだろうな。それらのことについては申し開きはできない。だが安心しろ。俺もお前のことは好きじゃねえよ。人の頭の中好き勝手いじくりやがって。あれからどれだけ俺が苦労したと思う。
それについては申し開きできませんね。
And I do it again. The two of them faintly smiled as they held that conversation. And here we go. Oh shit, hello. Ah, we're back here. Let's go with this procedure. Oh, he must have been more hesitant. He must have been more hesitant before. Let's go with this procedure. First, we repair any of the memories altered by Subject N that are serving as the root of Mr. Ukida's malice. After that, we erase Subject N's spirit.
ユーリ、おじさんの悪意を消去するためにはどんな条件で記憶検索をすればいいと思う？
そうだね。まず浮田さんの意思を知るために 今回のテロを起こした動機を時系列に沿って今日まで見て。
Let's skip ahead to the... Whoop. Then we search for floral-scented memories and repair them. That's what I think.
なるほど。おじさんがどういうつもりで行動していたのかわからなければ修復しようがないもんな。
I don't actually remember which one gets us the full treatment. This is a bit tricky. Everyone's lives hung on Natsuko's shoulders. He could never be too careful with malice erasure in this situation. Just how detailed of a check should he run? Should he look through Akita's memories in detail, or only the bare minimum? Want to keep it to the bare minimum? Consider that course of action for a moment, then Natsuko second-guessed himself. Okay, details obtained. Okay, next change. Yeah, this is all subtle stuff. This all appears to be subtle stuff in terms of Watase and Natsuko's interactions. Watase, please bring Salvia here first.
簡単に言うなよ。俺は一度あの子に殺されかけてるんだぞ。
わかっている。だけど連れてくるだけでいいんだ。
Yeah, they're definitely more distant than
サリオは
before.
お前と敵対しているが、僕とは仲間だ。ちゃんと事情を話せば、きっとここまで来てくれるはずだ。
And Natsuko is gonna casually send Watase to get the shit beaten out of him.
その保証はないだろう。
He's right.
出会い頭にいきなり襲われるかもしれん。俺のリスクについては考慮に入ってないようだな。
Correct.
リスクを負うくらい我慢しろ。元はといえば、お前がしでかしたことがここまでの事態を呼んだんだから。
Those words were meant to get Watase to do some reflection and change his intentions. Both Watase and Yuri furrowed their eyebrows. A bit harsh.
ヒコリ、それはちょっと言い過ぎじゃ。
Yeah, a bit much. Watase himself just cut in with an awkward smile, interrupting Yuri.
いや、構わないぜ、ユーリ。夏彦の言う通りにするよ。
Well, this
俺は
is...
こいつに操られる立場だ。こいつがやれと言えば逆らえないからな。
Well, goddamn, this is taking a turn. Watase glared at Natsuko as he spoke.
だがな、夏彦。俺はお前の駒じゃない。生きた人間なんだ。
おっ
それを忘れるな。
Yeah, this has definitely turned in a hurry.
行きたくないとでも言うつもりか。
違うさ。俺が気にしてるのはもっと先の話だ。
So what do you do next?
こうしてみんなを連れてきて悪意を消去し終わって俺が用済みになったらお前は俺の記憶をまた消すんだろ？
Oh, damn. Natsuko's heart skipped a beat.
どうしてそんなことを。
You're a terrible liar,
PC を
Natsuko.
使わなくたってそれくらいわかる。何しろ一度は心がつながったんだから。まあ消したければ消すがいいさ。その瞬間からお前は本当の意味で怪物になるがな。
Watase ignored Natsuko's speechlessness and spoke up.
よし、それじゃあまずはサリを探すとするか。おっさんはこの子たちを守るためここに残ってくれ。
Yeah, I can definitely see why this route locks you out of the true ending.
何？しかし守れと言われても。
Oh. No, that's why I knew you with this. Watase took the gun out of his pocket and handed it to Akita.
これは俺の銃だ。弾は残り少ないがちゃんと弾倉も入ってる。いざとなったらこいつを使え。ただし当てるなよ。威嚇だけだ。
あ、わかった。
Akita nervously took the gun.
よし、それじゃ行ってくるわ。
As Watase said that and began to leave, Natsuko called out to him.
おい、待て渡せ。
なんだよ、しつけえな。
お前は銃を持っていかなくていいのか。
平気だよ。こいつがあるからな。
Watase slapped his right bicep and smiled boldly. Before Natsuko could say anything, Watase left the shelter. Once Watase left, the shelter went quiet. Oh, this is a new scene. After a short moment of silence, Yuri murmured.
隊長さん、なんかすごく無理してるみたい。
Natsuko's heart twinged slightly in pain at those words. Ever since he had returned Watase's memories, they began cooperating only because they happened to share a common interest. But their relationship before that seemed to be far better in Natsuko's eyes. It was far better back then, when their minds were connected and they sought a way to survive together.
だけど僕だって好きであいつと対立してるわけじゃない。あんな風にいいでもしなければきっと奴の考えは変わらないんだ。
まさか私のためにあんなことを。
Trying.
僕はあいつに有利をさらうという考えを改めてほしい。ただそれだけだ。
Yeah, unfortunately, that's scolding him like an angry parent is the wrong approach.
なんだって隊長さんは Q としての使命を果たすことを今も諦めてないのかい？
その通りです。僕はそれを阻止したいんですよ。有利を引き渡すわけにはいかないから。
そうか。隊長さんらしいといえばらしいが。
でも隊長さんとヒコリンがひがみ合うのは私嫌だよ。
It's probably bad to antagonize. Despite Yuri's complaints, Natsuko still couldn't help it. It certainly doesn't make Watase feel safe around you, knowing that you're just going to wipe his memories again. Watase had his sights firmly set on fulfilling his mission with Q. Natsuko had his sights firmly set on protecting Yuri and everyone else. As long as those firm beliefs remained incompatible, a compromise between Natsuko and Watase was impossible.
くそ。せっかく悪意を消したってのに、どうしてあいつとは分かり合えないんだ。
As Natsuko muttered to himself, Ukita asked him a question.
ところで夏彦君、その悪意の話だが。
Are you back? Oh, no. Huh?
被験体 N は記憶を操作し、かつ己の意志を伝播することで人の悪意を増幅するというが、それは間違いないのかね？
はい。
浮田さんもやっぱり自覚はなかったんですね。
なかった。ついさっきまではね。
Ukita sighed.
悪意に感染していた間の自分の行動はもちろん全て覚えている。だが今考えると全てが夢の中の出来事のようだ。
それが被験体 N の恐ろしいところなんでしょうね。
確かに。だがより恐ろしいのは悪意を増幅されている間の自分も確かに僕自身だという気がすることだ。犠牲者を出してしまったのは僕のせいじゃない。悪いのは全て隊長さんだ。そう思ったのは被験体 N じゃなくて僕だという自覚があるんだよ。そんな自分の歪小さや卑怯さに気づかされるのがなんというか怖いね。
Natsuko understood the meaning behind Ukita's words. No matter how good a person may be, perhaps not a single one is completely free from malice. Those who came into contact with Subject N came to know their true selves, whether they wanted to or not. They all came to realize the monster they harbored in the depths of their mind.
認めたくなかったのさ、そんなこと。善意と勇気を振り絞って行動したつもりが目的を果たせないばかりか最悪の結果を生んでしまったことがね。
This will be really interesting. This turns out to be a focus on the budding monster in Natsuhiko's mind. Willing to crush people's memories to achieve his goals.
おじさん、それは。
Natsuko tried to say something, but he couldn't find the words. Ukita shook his head as if to say it's fine and continued.
君たちに謝るよ。実はね、元を正せば今回の事件は僕の行動がきっかけになって起きたんだ。
Naturally, Natsuhiko knew that. He learned the whole details of what led up to the incident from Ukita's memories. He knew all the hardships Ukita faced as he came to cause the incident and how he felt throughout it all.
僕はいつだってこうなのさ。信念に従って行動してもいつも悪い方向に向かってしまう。 多くの人を巻き込み、結局誰も救えず、今こんなことになっている。どうせ脆弱な正義なら、それを行使すべきではなかったのかもね。
Natsuko pondered those words. Mr. Ukida's methods were indeed flawed in some places. It wasn't as if Ukida had acted in accordance with a perfect sense of justice. There should have been another way. But Yuri did not judge him.
でも浮田さんが私たちを救おうと思ってくれたから、私はヒコリに会えたんです。間違っていても信念を貫いて行動してくれたから。だからこんなこと言っても慰めにはならないかもしれませんけど、ありがとうございました。
Once Ukida heard her words of gratitude, he smiled faintly.
いや、救われたよ。救おうとした相手に救われたんじゃ話が逆だがね。
そうかもですね。
Yuri smiled at those words. Oh. Natsuko smiled as well and then turned to his thoughts. Mr. Ukida's probably okay now. He had a strong sense of justice to begin with, after all. Now that Ukida was free from malice and regretted his actions, he would probably be a reassuring ally to them now. Ukida himself spoke while gazing at the door Watase had left through.
偉そうに言える立場ではないが、隊長さんにも自分の道が間違っていないか、今一度考え直してほしいな。すでに多くの犠牲を出してしまった以上、使命を果たすことにこだわる気持ちもわかるには。
あいつの考えはそうそう変わらないでしょう。渡瀬は今でも9なんです。あいつの中に復讐心がある限り考えはきっと変わらない。
It was probably already an internalized belief to Watase. No, isn't it more than that? The deepest depths of Watase's mind lay a hatred and fear of communicators. And Natsuko had a power that Watase feared. And perhaps as long as Natsuko would use that power, he and Watase would never be able to come to a mutual understanding. But even so, this is the path I chose. To protect Yuri, I have no choice but to keep using this power and casting strict words at Watase until he changes his beliefs. Or until he snaps and turns on us, who knows? Perhaps if he couldn't do that, then Natsuko and Watase would never come to mutual understanding for all eternity. Will the antagonism between communicators and ordinary people continue forever, in the same way that the two of us can't come to terms? The thought made Natsuko depressed.
おじさん、コミュニケーターと一般人が分かり合える社会は来るんでしょうか。このラボは本当はそのための研究をするべきだったんじゃないですか。
僕だって無論そうは思うが、ラボの上層部はそう考えていないんだ。彼らが BC 研究に血道を上げてるのは、やれ公共の治安のためだ、社会不安を起こさないためだと理由付けしているが、本音を明かせば目的は金さ。
金？
力に頼らないで分かり合わなきゃダメなんじゃないかってさ。
Sorry for the jump cut, but we just realized that we hit a point where we could skip again.
ユーリ、何を言いたいんだ？
ヒコリンには隊長さんの記憶を消さないでほしいの。
Our willingness to erase his memory is going to get us into trouble.
隊長さんだって話せばいつか分かってくれるかもしれない。それは自然な心変わりでしょ。でも静止図シンパシーを使うのはそういうのと全然違うよ。記憶を少し歪めるだけでも人はすごく変わってしまうし、記憶を消すっていうことは人の心を殺すのと一緒だと思う。
Yuri's lonely words struck Natsuko in the heart. The same had happened to him as well. The memories Yuri had fabricated had caused Natsuko to live with a phantom for 9 years. The things Subject N and Natsuko had done were the same as well. Subject N's distortion of Watase's memory transfigured him into a homicidal demon. When Natsuko erased his memories, Watase subsequently became just a rescue worker. Those personalities are foreign from their memories, so erasing someone's memories is the same as killing them mentally. As Natsuko fell silent, Yuri concluded.
私たちはどうしてか 身に余る能力を身につけちゃったよね。人の心に触れて自由に操作できてしまう力、それはとても怖い力だよ。それを自分の利益のために躊躇せずに使うようになっちゃったら、私たちは本当に。
We were really strongly trying to talk Natsuko out of this. Monsters, just like Watase had said, perhaps. Even if they weren't lumps of malice like Subject N, they would be entities quite close to her. Even so, Natsuko shook his head at Yuri's words.
でもそれも君のためなんだ。
そんな。
だってそうだろう。このままじゃ渡瀬は最終的に君を連れて行く。
Natsuko's already committed, though.
もう一度聞くよ。ユーリは本当にそれでいいのか？君を自由にするためには渡瀬が考えを変えるしかないんだ。ラボを出るまでにあいつが自分で考えを改めてくれればいいけど。
He's not gonna do it by treating him like
も
this.
しそれが叶わないんだったら僕がこの手で。
Before Natsuko could finish his sentence, sound rang out from outside the door. Natsuko and the others gasped and turned around. Hi, Jun! Meanwhile, a thought crossed Watase's mind as he repaired it. He was remembering the conversation he just had with Natsuko.
こうしてみんなを連れてきて悪意を消去し終わって俺が用済みになったら、お前は俺の記憶をまた消すんだろ。
どうしてそんなことを？
He had figured out Natsuko's true intentions from that reaction alone. Boy really had been planning on erasing Watase's memories eventually. Well, can't blame him. He's no saint, after all. Any normal boy out there would want to protect the girl most precious to them. Probably do the same thing as Natsuko if I were in his shoes. He was still afraid. He was still afraid of the inevitable moment when Natsuko would betray him. Watase had looked into communicators the best he could, but their true power was far greater than anything Watase had imagined. There were people out there who could dive into people's minds and manipulate their memories as they saw fit. There was nothing that frightened Watase more than that. He remembered what he told Natsuko in order to stave off that fear. Erase it if you want, for all I care. Just know that the moment you do, that makes you a monster in the truest sense of the word. Now that I've said all that, all I can do is hope Natsuko has a change of heart. After all, I'm no match for him. There were only two ways to avoid having his memories erased by Natsuko. First was to leave Q and abandon his mission to secure a test subject. The other one was to wait for Natsuko to see things his way. It'll be a cold day in hell before that happens. I highly doubt any communicator would agree with our ideals. It was because they knew that fact that Watase and Ukita had resorted to terrorism. Just as he couldn't get Natsuko to agree with him, neither could he abandon his mission. If he cast aside his duty at this point, then all he'd have to show for it were several victims. Rokume City and Leibo's wrongdoings would continue, as would their cover-up of the truth. One more people would have their human rights spat upon, be stripped of their freedom, and live a tortured existence. Why can't you understand that, Natsuko? Your girl was confined in Leibo for years, too. Doesn't that mean anything to you? Their wills were clashing fiercely against one another. Watase felt the grip of melancholy upon his heart. Damn it! I feel like I could have gotten along with you if I'd been the way I was before. Things were much better before I got my memories back. Just as Natsuko had said, now that he had his memories back, he was far past the point of no return. Watase suddenly felt like he'd gone somewhere very far away. Is it just me, or did something like this happen before? Yeah, it was back when Kazumi and I... Oh! Before he could finish that thought, he finished fixing the cable. Oh, dash right to the surveillance room? Oh! You were just about to give us a hint of that first relationship between you two, which is something that we never got, to this point. Meanwhile, Anna, don't panic. I'm probably not infected. I just still want you to check my mind just in case.
用心のためですか？
そうよ。それにあなたたちも気になるんじゃない？私。
Your trade identity did indeed bother him. Anna said she was a member of something that was like a police, so it probably had something to do with that. What do I do? How should I go about doing memory access this time around? Whoa. Okay, detail, just do a quick check. Do a check. And detail, here we go. There are too many mysteries about her, and besides, I wanted to know more about who Anna was inside.
わかりました。先生の記憶を覗かせてもらいます。
It's not like I'm peeking because I doubt you or anything.
そうです。あくまで先生を心から信じるために。
Anna smiled at Natsuko and Yuri's words.
ありがとう。二人とも。私も今度こそ心を開くわ。私の頭の中にあるのがこの国の真実の姿よ。
As Anna gave them that veiled warning, the kids walked up to her, activated senses sympathy. Here we go. And meanwhile,
渡瀬、どうした？
夏彦か。
Watase seemed surprised to have heard the auditory hallucination again after so long.
脅かすんじゃねえよ。これテレパシーか。
まあそうだ。だけど声を出す必要はない。頭で考えてくれれば会話できる。
そうかよ。そりゃ助かる。
で、今どういう状況だ？
Watase thought of the answer in his head.
どうもこうもねえよ。猿に襲われ逃げてるところだ。
場所は？
地下2階、第3エリア外周塔から第2エリア外周塔に続く連絡通路だ。
In that case, I'll try too. Skipping ahead a little bit, Natsuko made up his mind and spoke to Yuri.
ユーリ、僕も行くよ。渡瀬のところに。
Less confident than before? Or less determined? In the sense of, if he had gone the friend route, he would have been... We gotta save Watase?
ヒコリ、まさか隊長さんが心配になったの？
違う。サリュが心配なだけだ。
Ah, yes, of course. Baka. Natsuko answered that way despite knowing that if Mashito were awake, she'd call him a damn tsundere.
僕が行けば一発で収まるんだ。さすがにいつまでもここに引きこもってはいられないよ。
Yuri fell silent at those words for a second, but then she readied herself and spoke.
だったら私も一緒に行く。その思い出があればどんな過去にも耐えられるから。
In response, Natsuko gently grasped Salyu's hand and spoke.
この数日だけじゃないよ。これからきっとたくさんいいことがある。僕らが君とずっと一緒にいるから。
Aww. Sally said nothing. She just silently grasped Natsuko's hand back. Yuri laid her hand on top of theirs and spoke.
脱出しようね、みんなで。マシロも一緒に4人であの家に帰ろう。
Aww. Sally nodded, wiping her tears. Natsuko nodded and murmured.
あとは立花さんが戻れば脱出できるけど。
Everything's going black. Rope play. Kazumi, the safe word.
ふざけるな。お前まだ生きててもらわなくちゃ困る。
Tsundere Natsuko route? Sorry, but you'll need to find yet another pawn. When Watase thought that, he heard another voice.
隊長！
This was no mental voice. It was actually coming from a person's throat. Time for some emergency sense of sympathy? The determination aroused Natsuko's memory. This is new, apparently? His sharpened concentration caused his senses to fade. Every sight he saw and sound he heard up to now came forth from the back of his mind.
サリュ！
Salyu gasped and turned around. During that fleeting, ever so short moment,
サリュ、みんな見てくれ。これがここにいる8人の辿ってきた道だ。
Natsuko put all his strength into using BC. That one line changed for some reason, not sure why. Though it was not as if he could convey everything with BC. Even though he went this far, it would probably still lead to some deficiencies in understanding, but I'm sure everyone's coming to terms with each other at least a little. That was what he had hoped. Even if they couldn't understand each other, they could at least come to terms with each other. Everyone's terse, tense expressions softened ever so slightly.
サリュちゃん、確かに 隊長さんはマシロンを撃ったけど
Moving along? Moving along. Okay, now it's finally time for this bad ending. And now, we have a third answer. Which is... This is the safer route. This is the indecision route. This is the new choice. We only had 2 choices last time. We looked around and it appeared that only Natsuko had heard the telepathy. You don't have to tell me. There's only one thing I need to do. And thus Natsuko made up his mind. I can't just go and use senses it? That was the route Natsuko had chosen. I'm not sure if I can return Miss Tachibana to normal now that she's been consumed so deeply by the malice. There's only one route left to take. With that thought in mind, Natsuko sent telepathy to Watase. Ooh. Wait, hold up. Okay, my bad. I made a mistake. The only choice is to go both down. So prioritizing Kazumi and not Watase seems to be the normal way to get that bad ending. Because if we don't prioritize either, our only choice is to erase all of Miss Tachibana's memories. I don't have time to pick or choose. Natsuko steeled his resolve. Gripped Yuri's hand and dove into Kazumi's mind. After erase all the memories that compose her mind, countless memories flickered through the void. Memories of hatred teeming with malice. This is all I can do. Please let this put a stop to it. Natsuko focused his BC one last time in an attempt to erase Kazumi's malice. That moment, Natsuko could feel Kazumi's pain. As he endured her suffering, he thought to himself, I had no other choice. Natsuko then returned to reality. Kazumi slowly collapsed to the floor, like a marionette whose strings had been cut.
Kazumi!
Watase and Jun gasped and ran over to Kazumi. It appeared she was unconscious. Watase shook her awake.
Kazumi! Kazumi!
Shortly afterwards, as if in response to his voice, Kazumi groaned and opened her eyes.
Kazumi!
Watase held Kazumi in his arms. But a befuddled look crossed her face when she saw Watase. Uh-oh. Watase and Jun's faces froze over when they heard that. Watase glared at Natsuko, then shouted.
Natsuko! お前、風見の記憶を。その通りだ。橘さんの記憶を吹き飛ばした。
Oof, he's confident.
消えたのかはわからないけど。
Oof.
お前が記憶喪失になった直後と同じ状態のはずだ。何？お前、自分が何をしたか分かってるのか？失敗するわけにはいかなかったんだ。お前や橘さんの命だってかかってたんだぞ。ああでもして無力化するしかないだろ
う。Watase fell quiet. Kazumi nervously looked at everyone around her. What the fuck is going on?
どういうことですか？何が起こってるんですか？あなたたちは誰なんですか？教えてください。私は誰なんですか？
Kazumi shouted on the verge of tears. There's no sign of her previous composed, firm-hearted nature. Oh no. Jun bitterly embraced Kazumi.
あなたは記憶喪失になっちゃったんだよ。
記憶喪失？
でも大丈夫。怯えなくていいよ。私がついてるから。
Jun knows what. Jun recognizes this. Jun recognizes this, and that hurts my heart. Because this is pre-recovery Kazumi. Jun continued to embrace Kazumi as the confused woman kept staring blankly. A small sense of guilt filled Natsuhiko's heart. Was this really the only way? But he couldn't think of a way that would have resolved everything cleanly. Watase then finally stood up at what seemed to be resignation and walked up to Natsuhiko.
状況が状況だ。方法の是非を問うことはしない。だが、これで全ての危機が終わったわけじゃない。
Natsuhiko, Yuri, Mashiro, and Enna frowned in confusion.
ゼロエリアの爆弾のことだ。
Oh yeah, we're gonna die!
あれは解体不可能で、しかも核兵器解放の前に爆発するんだ。
Natsuhiko, Yuri, Mashiro, and Enna's eyes widened in shock. Watase explained the details about the bomb to Natsuhiko and the others, but why they couldn't disarm it and why the lockdown timer was off. How at this rate everyone would die in the explosion.
そんな。
The news shook up Natsuhiko's group. They all began to speak with quivering voices.
このままここにいたらみんな死んでしまうんですか？じゃあ脱出方法を考えなきゃ。
無茶よ。私たちが6時間も探して何も見つけられなかったのに。
Watase fell silent. It really is ridiculous. He had little time left. Watase realized he couldn't think of anything as he held the amnesiac Kazumi in his arms. But we've still got to do something. The bomb is my responsibility, so I have to save everyone here. The time was 6:02 p.m. Only 15 minutes left until the bomb went off. Watase had come up with an escape plan back in Area 0, but it's too dangerous to risk bringing up the idea with the situation the way it is. It would just cause everyone to panic more. He gave up on that idea. Natsuhiko bitterly spoke to Watase.
渡瀬、どうするつもりなんだ。
Oh no, not this shit again.
とにかくここにいたらみんな死んじまう。少しでも安全なところに避難しよう。
安全なところ。
Watase nodded.
爆弾はゼロエリアに仕掛けられている。そこで発生した爆風がどんな風に拡散するのかは予測不能だが、爆心地から一番遠い場所、つまり第2エリア非常階段の隔壁の前に行けば少しだけ生存率は上がるはずだ。
Oh, so this is going to be similar to Bad End 6, but from Watase's perspective.
そこに行けば生き残れるのか？
わからんが、それにかけるしかないだろう。
He was at a loss for any better options. Impatience and confusion had taken their toll on Watase's sense of judgment. Everyone looked uneasy, but they reluctantly nodded.
移動するなら早い方がいい。行こう。
うん。ほら、お姉ちゃん。
はい。
Jun took Kazumi's hand and walked off. Everyone else followed suit. The 9 of them reached the bulkhead. Time was 6:08 p.m. Only 9 minutes left until the explosion. Watase and the others endured their fear and waited for that moment. The mind-crushing silence was eventually shattered when Kazumi broke the ice.
どうした？
私、あなたとあなたには少し見覚えがあるんですけど。
Kazumi looked at Watase and Jun, then continued.
あなたたちは私の。
Jun answered that question.
私はお姉ちゃんの妹だよ。
妹？じゃあ、あなたは？
Watase looked away from Kazumi after he was asked that.
俺はお前に、いや、お前たち全員にひどいことをした男だ。
ひどいことですか？
俺は支援からこの施設を破壊しようとした。それで俺が仕掛けた爆弾が今爆発しようとしてるんだ。だが誤算があり、お前たちを巻き込んでしまったんだよ。
そんな。
Kazumi looked at Watase and rose her voice in astonishment.
あなたはそんなことをする人じゃないでしょ。
わからないだろ、そんなこと。君は記憶を失ってるんだから。
いいえ、
わかります。確かに私全てを忘れてしまって、なんとなく覚えているんです。あなたがとても優しくて正義感が強い人だってこと。
That's why I have to kill you. So you'll die that way. Oh, nope, I still don't have memories. Watase couldn't say anything, nor could anyone else. Kind, a strong sense of justice. Me. That sense of justice is what dragged all of you into this mess. Watase was full of regret. For learning the truth behind Wataru's death, and for everything he'd done today right up until this very instant. Was there no other way? Must have been a correct route to take that would have kept everyone from falling into this miserable. A flash of insight suddenly rushed through Watase's head at that moment. That's right, at the very least, I can make it harder for the explosion to make it all the way over here. That was the lone ray of hope that had shone through this despair. When it came down to it, explosions basically spread in the paths of least resistance. And in that case, since everyone was in Area 2, he could reroute the explosion towards Area 5, the complete opposite side of the facility. It could at least slightly improve their chances of survival. That said, it was a plan with slim chances for success. They had to gamble on it. Watase then spoke up.
森部、悪い。俺用事ができた。
え？
風見たちのことよろしく頼む。お前たちは絶対に来るなよ。
ちょっと隊長。
何をするつもりだ、渡せ。
Watase ignored everyone's shouts and descended the emergency staircase. Then ran over to Area N as fast as he could. There to the 6 security gates surrounding him. The explosion will spread in every direction, leading out of Area N once it rises from Area 0. All I have to do is just open the gate from Area N to Area 5 and keep the rest shut. Watase headed towards Area 5 and stood in front of its gate. According to his watch, it was 6:15 p.m. Only 2 minutes to go before the explosion. All he had to do was open the gate just as the explosion occurred. That said, Watase would die for sure if he went through with it. No one could survive being directly above the explosion's blast radius. So what? Watase broke out into a self-depreciating laugh. He suddenly remembered what had happened just a few hours ago, back when he still hadn't regained his memories. He went into Area N all by himself to save everyone back then, too. He had thought his own life meant nothing if it meant saving the others. That sadly pure conviction felt so radiant to Watase now. Just gone back to the way I was back then. Now I can finally fulfill my plans from back. At that moment, he suddenly heard a voice behind him. Eh? Watase turned around to find Kazumi standing there. His eyes widened and he started shouting.
バカ野郎！どうしてきた？
よくわからないけど、あなたのことが心配で追ってきました。
Oh no, you're gonna break my heart.
お前が来たら意味ないんだよ。森部は止めなかったのか？
振りほどいてきました。いけませんでしたか？
Watase gasped and checked his watch once again. Only 23 seconds left to go until the explosion. She'd never make it back to the others if she were to try to run back now.
戻れ風見。お前は生きろ。
嫌です。
うるせえ、戻れ。俺と一緒に死んじまうぞ。
いいんです。
Kazumi sounded like she was pleading with Watase.
目を覚ましていきなり死ぬとか生きると言われても実感が湧きません。だけどこの気持ちだけはなぜかはっきりしているんです。死ぬならあなたと死にたいって。
Watase's face was warped with grief. There wasn't any time left. Watase reluctantly opened the gate to Area 5 and heard a thunderous roar rise up from below at that moment.
来た。
Kazumi's body trembled at the start. Watase gripped her arms and held her close to him. He could feel a massive surge of heat ascending from Area 0. Death was creeping towards them from the very depths of the earth. It would only take a mere moment for it to completely fill Area N. That second that lasted longer than an eternity. Watase embraced Kazumi. Bad End 5, Vanquished Loyalist, the result of erasing Kazami's memories. And avert this fate by setting your senses to take both Watase and Kazami's safety into account. Makes perfect sense. Oh, baby. And we got the achievement for getting all the bad endings. That one hurt. Holy shit. That is not how I expected that to go, but given the route that led up to it. But I suppose setting Natsuhiko's attitude towards Sense's sympathy is only the trigger for that absolute tragedy. Not the actual... Yeah, it is the trigger of that bad ending, but bad ending did not consist of the consequences. Oh, I don't know what I'm saying. It did not involve Natsuhiko's attitude. It was just a consequence of Natsuhiko's attitude. There we go. Natsuhiko's attitude being very shitty. Oh, man. Well, our next step is to continue on. I guess we gotta see if anything else changes. Leading up to the final ending branch, which we will conclude the video on. After saving Kazami, Watase walked up to Natsuhiko.
夏彦、風見の記憶を消さないでくれてありがとう。
いや、当然だよ。僕も橘さんの記憶を消さずに良かったと思ってる。さっきの言葉を聞けたから。橘さんの言葉を聞いて思い出したんだ。お前はテロリストだけど、被験体を助けるために今回の計画を実行したんだもんな。
ああ、まあな。
A bit of understanding at this late in the game?
僕が有利に会えたのはお前のおかげなんだ。だからさ。
Too little, too late, possibly, but
言わせてもらうよ。ありがとうって。
Natsuhiko held his hand out to Watase. Watase gripped that hand with a wry smile.
礼を言われる資格はないさ。お前のためにやったわけでもない。
そうだろうな。
Watase's hand was warm. With that physical contact, Natsuhiko finally felt he was free from the hostility he had towards Watase. But Watase soon spoke up in a serious voice.
なあ、夏彦。お前に言わなきゃならないことがある。ゼロエリアに降りて分かったんだ。俺たちは取り返しのつかないことをしたんだって。
Oh, bomb. However, once we've chosen to save everybody...
正論吐いてんじゃねえ、バカ野郎。口で言うのは簡単だ。でもどうするってんだ。何？
バカはお前だ、渡せ。
we made up, but we're still bickering.
僕が言ってるのは誰かを犠牲にすることを簡単に認めるなってことだ。自分が犠牲になることも同じだ。命を諦めちゃダメだ。渡さんも言ってただろ。最後の最後まであがけって。
Okay, moving on.
いちいち格好つけるな、バカ。
Natsuhiko shouted and looked at the pipe. There was a hole in it. The hole Watase had opened with an axe 3 hours ago. Moving along. Thinking about what exactly had given us these visions. Natsuhiko did not know. When I think back, I feel like something was always there, right there beside me. Did we not have the epiphany about the Yuri experiment there? Wonder, can we skip? No. In times of pain, in times of hopelessness, and in times of paranoia and doubt, it was always there with Natsuhiko, showing him which route to take. Natsuhiko couldn't help but feel that was the case. Moving on. Yeah. Watase ravenously sucked in what little oxygen remained in the tank. He spurred his body to keep walking. Damn it, this little brat's always got the perfect timing. He's such a slave driver. Moving right along. Okay. Don't think anything's really gonna change. So Natsuhiko, this is the final choice.
選べ。お前と俺のどちらの主張を取るのか。お前と俺のどちらが正しいのか。
Watase's face was full of conviction. Q may have been a terrorist organization, but it did conduct its actions with a just cause. Watase chose to stick to those intentions, even if it meant making enemies with Natsuhiko. But Watase's not simply sticking to his mission heartlessly. If Natsuhiko merely willed it, Watase's memories would disappear in an instant. And Watase didn't just attack Natsuhiko by surprise, meaning... Watase really wants to leave the choice to me? The choice lay with Natsuhiko. There's only one chance to choose. This choice will determine the future. And my fate, Watase's fate, and Yuri's fate as well. Notice our opinion of Watase is stuck. So... Natsuhiko hung his head and quickly churned out thoughts. Can I choose? If it were at all possible, he wanted to fulfill Watase's wishes. They were partners who had once established an emotional bond, after all. I can't just go ahead and do that, can I? Yuri wasted 9 years of her life to save me, didn't she? There's no way in hell I can just hand Yuri over to Q after she's done all that. As he thought to himself, suddenly... An epiphany struck him like lightning. That's it. How did I not think of that? There was but a single way. A single way to both fulfill Watase's demands and save Yuri at the same time. That's it. That's the only way. If it means not having to hand Yuri over, then it's a much better alternative. Natsuhiko quietly resolved himself. He looked Watase straight in the eye and spoke.
なあ、渡瀬。
なんだ。
お前に同行するコミュニケーターは、Q に協力するコミュニケーターは、有利じゃなくてもいいんだよな。
Yuri's eyes widened instantly. She probably understood the meaning behind Natsuhiko's words.
光、まさか。
This is playing out the same, but it is a new scene.
そうだよ、有利。
If you heard a jump in the sound, it's because I tried to skip and I couldn't. So, this is new.
僕が君の代わりに渡瀬と一緒に行く。なあ、渡瀬。それでいいだろう。
When Natsuhiko asked that question, Watase responded.
それに勝る答えはない。
As if he had been waiting for those words.
夏彦、苦労をかけるな。
うるさい。お前のためじゃない。ただ僕は有利のために。
ダメだよ、光。隊長さんと一緒に行っちゃダメ。
Yuri interrupted Natsuhiko.
光は Q の仲間になりたいわけじゃないでしょ。この事件で Q は今まで以上にあらゆる機関から睨まれる。隊長さんについていったらもう普通の生活なんかできないんだよ。みんなとも二度と会えなくなる。そんなの嫌だよ、光。行かないで。
But Natsuhiko shook his head and gripped her hand.
有利、そう言ってくれて嬉しいよ。でも僕は君に9年間救われ続けてきた。今度は僕が君を救う番だ。
じゃあヒコリンが行くんだったら私も行く。
ダメだよ、有利。それは危険だ。真白やサリュや母さんにももう会えなくなるんだぞ。だから君は連れて行けない。行くのは僕一人だ。
嫌だよ、ヒコリン。そんなの嫌。
Yuri screamed as heavy teardrops rained from her eyes. She was like a child throwing a tantrum. Hearing her voice like that reminded Natsuhiko of a sight he had seen in her memory. They were the events of a distant day. Yuri manipulated Natsuhiko's memories in Labo, all to save him from his stupefaction. I'm returning the favor. Oh!
私は今度こそ一緒にいられるって。これからはずっと一緒にいたいって。
有利、
Natsuhiko placed his hand on Yuri's shoulder and smiled gently at her.
大丈夫。 悲しむことはないよ。僕は君とずっと一緒だ。いつも君のそばにいる。君の中に僕は居続けるから。
居続ける。
Yuri's voice suddenly stiffened. She probably realized what Natsuko was trying to do.
まさか。
今までありがとう。
Natsuko whispered that to her, then used Sense's sympathy one last time. At that moment, his field of vision was filled with radiant light. He felt something warm flow through him from the depths of her mind.
光、私忘れないよ。光が私を救ってくれたこと、絶対だから。私。
And with that in mind, and with that thought, Yuri's mind began to quietly crumble apart. Oh geez. A lone desire came to her mind from a fragment of her fading memories.
必ず光に会いに行くから。
But those words faded into light. Well. So he wiped her memory completely this time? Which again makes sense, given I should say, given his proclivity towards using Sense's sympathy. Well, are we gonna get more of more of Watase and Natsuko with Q this time than we got before? Before it was focused on Watase willingly protecting. Watase knowing that Q isn't 100% moral, but willingly protecting Natsuko from Q. This ending still kind of had the same tone of the True Route ending, which likely because Natsuko and Watase eventually came together and resolved their differences and gained enough trust to get out. While still bickering. So, I suppose in this case, Watase, in this case, Watase hasn't come as far away from the ideals of Q, and Natsuko is still awfully close to the I should say Natsuko's come closer towards the ideals of Q, or at least become more willing to use his to justify his use of Sense's sympathy in BC. don't really have much more to say than that, other than we just wait for the epilogue. Oh? After days. Yuri? As I wake up today, I find myself in my bed in the Tenkawa household. Of course I do. After all, ever since that incident, I've always gone to sleep and woken up in this room. I sit up and stretch wide. I get the feeling I had a very sad dream, but I can't seem to remember what it was. The watch ticking. It's never a good sign, but somehow I know that I've often had this dream after we escaped from Labo that day. I get off my bed, change my clothes, and leave my room. Once I get into the living room, I hear cheerful greetings.
あら、ゆりちゃん、おはよう。
おはよう。
あ、起きたね。朝ごはんできてるよ。
Oh, this is mirroring Natsuhiko's.
博士、サルちゃん、マシュロ、おはようございます。
Just waiting for answer everyone's morning greetings.
それと、おはよう、ヒコリン。
おはよう、ユーリ。
Yep. He planted a fake Natsuhiko. Mashito, Salyu, Dr. Tenkawa, and Hikorin. Everyone's here this calm morning. Everything I've ever wanted is right here.
まあまあ、ゆうりも座って。今ご飯出してあげるから。
ありがとう。
I sit down at Mashito's prompting. Newscaster on TV was rambling on in a matter-of-fact tone of voice.
次のニュースです。かねてより過激な団体として見られていた組織 Q から新たな声明が発表されました。コミュニケーターの供述が含まれているこの声明は各界に衝撃を与えております。事態を重く見た政府は急遽この事件のための特別対策チームを組織し
Oh. But Dr. Tenkawa turns the TV off before the news can finish.
あれ、どうしたんですか？
何もないわ。食事中にテレビがついてるのは好きじゃないの。
Oh god, this is really...
さあさあ、ご飯の時間だよ。みんなもお腹空いてるでしょ？
Oh, Salyu.
そうだな。
Listening to Salyu and Hikorin makes me smile.
それにしても、よかったね。
何が？
こうしてみんなが食卓に揃っててさ。
Salyu's having trouble keeping up the
ラ
act.
ボを出て、みんなで平和に暮らせるようになってさ。なんか、すっごく幸せだよ。ユーリは幸せなの？
Oh. When I say that, the Professor, Yuri, and Salyu all look sad for some reason. Hikorin alone looks at me with a smile on his face. After breakfast is finished and all the dishes have been put away, Mashiro calls out to me.
ねえユーリ、ちょっと今から一緒に散歩に行かない？
突然どうしたの？
ユーリに見てもらいたいものがあってさ。
散歩に行くなら私も行く。
Salyu joins in on Mashiro's suggestion.
じゃあせっかくだしみんなで。
3人で行きたいの。
Mashiro's voice sounds a little tense, so I end up answering without thinking.
いいよ。それじゃあヒコリン博士、私たちお散歩してきます。
ええ。
わかったよ。楽しんできな。
Once we leave the house, Mashiro speaks up cheerfully.
よし行こっか。うん。どこに行くの？とりあえず私についてきてよ。行き先は秘密ってこと？そうだね。秘密の場所ではあるかな。
Sally was sad. With that, Mushroom begins walking. She's acting a little strange, isn't she? I suddenly get that impression. My heart pounds a little. After Mushroom leads us for a while, we eventually come across a familiar building.
ここはそう、秘密基地だよ。久しぶりだな。何年ぶりだろう。今日は話したいことがあってここに呼んだんだ。とりあえず中に入ろう。
The three of us enter the secret base. It looked just like how I've remembered it these 9 years. As I bask in nostalgia, Mushroom starts to mutter quietly.
ねえユーリ、真実ってなんだと思う？
The abrupt question leaves me confused.
真実なんて知らなくていいかもしれない。嘘の中で生きていく方が幸せかもしれない。だけどね、それでもユーリはやっぱり知っておくべきだと思うんだ。ユーリは私よりずっと強いから。真実を受け止められる強さを持っているはずだから。
Serious Sally. Mushroom speaks in a cautionary tone. Sally looks at me expectantly. It causes my heart to sway. Don't tell me. At that moment, a certain premonition runs through my head. Everyone's sad faces at breakfast. The sad dream I had last night. I have every night. How Mushroom had stressed the word truth just now. All the pieces hint to a certain answer. No way. Can't believe it. No, I don't want to believe it, but to be honest, I may have already realized the truth. Perhaps I've only been feigning ignorance. To ponder that point, Mushroom speaks.
ねえユーリ、一つだけお願い。これから話す内容がどんなものでも逃げないで。私たちと一緒にその真実に向き合って。
Mushroom and Sally both look me straight in the eye. I look back into their eyes and answer.
逃げないよ、マシロ。私は逃げない。絶対に。私は悟った。まだ何も終わっていないということ。だから今度は私たちが彼を救わなければならない。彼が本当に自由になるまで何度でも。
Okay, there's that darker tone. There's that way darker tone, holy shit. Replayed from Forgetfulness. Wow. Yep, so we've got after. Well, this definitely shows off Natsuko's willingness to use senses sympathy aggressively. Before he only like skimmed off Yuri's most recent memory. This time, just straight up fake Natsuko, like same as he did to her, same as she did to him way back in the day. Just as not cool, and I should say, just as concerning implications, except less excuses. He knew what he was doing. She was just lonely, scared, and trapped. They could argue that it was the first thought that came to mind. Therefore, first clean thought as far as how you could actually save her and help Watase. But still, questionable morals. Questionable action. Questionable action for a good cause. And now, at the very least, it seems like they were able to pull Yuri out of it. And they don't hold it against Natsuko. And at least in this path, they're going to try and save him too. So, much darker implication, but still with a faint twinge of hope. Now let's move right along. Now then. Sin. Natsuko's thoughts sped frantically through his mind as he stood frozen in place. How was someone like me supposed to choose? To communicators like Natsuko and his friends, Rokume City had been a paradise. But he now saw the madness that the world was filled with. Nagisa's death had become like a great thorn, piercing his heart. The day-to-day life he once thought precious was built upon the sacrifice of many others. And perhaps sacrifice was indeed necessary to right the wrongs of the world. Even so, Natsuko looked at Yuri, who was standing by his side. She had let herself be locked away deep under Labo for 9 years to protect Natsuko's peaceful life. He could feel her warmth through her hand. Don't want to let go of her again. A few hours ago, Natsuko would have probably taken Yuri in a heartbeat. But things were different now that he knew about Nagisa's death and the truth behind Rokume City's facade. If I knew things would turn out like this, I never would have bothered searching for the truth in the first place. Natsuko gritted his teeth with that thought, but then Yuri smiled and spoke. Watase said nothing in response. Natsuko just stood there in a daze as Yuri continued. Yuri said that, then tried to walk away from Natsuko. But he wouldn't let her go.
ダメだ、ユーリ。行かせるわけにはいかない。僕と一緒にみんなのところへ帰るんだ。
Just then, Watase finally broke his silence.
夏彦、今のお前に必要なのは彼女を呼び止める言葉なんかじゃない。今のお前に必要なのは行動だ。ユーリと一緒にいたいなら、お前にはしなきゃいけないことがあるだろう。
Watase's voice was stern. The light in his eyes was mysteriously gentle. It was then that Natsuko realized what Watase wanted. So I have to do it?
そう。やるしかないんだよ。
Ah, clever. Watase muttered that as if he'd read Natsuko's mind. Then began to put pressure on his gun's trigger.
渡せ!
At that moment, Natsuko used Sense's sympathy one last time. His field of vision was filled with radiant light. He felt something warm flow through him from the depths of Watase's mind.
それでいいんだよ、夏彦。 お前たち子供が犠牲を払うなんて、そんなのは間違ってる。それにお前は、俺の気持ちも分かった上で行動したんだろ。だったら俺は、この選択を受け入れる。
With that thought, Watase's mind began to quietly crumble apart. All his memories were vanishing. A lone question came to his mind from a fragment of those thoughts.
なあ、渡る。俺は間違っていたのかな。
Aww. But those words faded into light. We're just gonna skip ahead here. Or crime. His consciousness was in an endless darkness. Where am I? Okay, so we're gonna parallel the start of both routes. In these endings, the non-true route. He didn't know. His head was a total blank. What is this? He couldn't remember a thing. How did this happen? He desperately tried to figure out why. Soon enough, a mysterious voice whispered in the corners of his mind. Whispered but one word. Awaken. I wake up in some place I've never seen before. Where am I? That thought in mind, I look around. I find myself lying in some sort of bed. Immaculate white sheets and the wafting scent of antiseptics. Looks like I'm in the hospital room of some sort. Just then, two women looked down on my face. Yep.
気がついたのですね。
Yep, we're flat out paralleling.
よかった。隊長、私のことわかる？
Nope. Looks like those two know me. But I don't remember them at all. Not in the slightest.
あんたたちは。いや、それよりここはどこなんだ？
Their expressions freeze upon hearing my question.
隊長。
やっぱりまた記憶喪失に。
Amnesia. Once I hear that, I try to think about myself. But my brain's a complete blank slate. Stunned, I frantically launch a barrage of questions at the women.
なんだこれ。どういうことだ？何も覚えてない。あんたたちは知ってるのか？俺は一体誰なんだ？
After a brief period of silence, they answered my question.
あなたはレスキュー隊の隊長です。
レスキュー？
そう。任務中に怪我を負い、この病院に担ぎ込まれたのです。おそらくその時の怪我が元で記憶を失ってしまったのでしょう。
Oh.
隊長はね、みんなを助けるために命がけで頑張ったんだよ。ガスの中に飛び込んだり、崩れてきた天井から身を挺して女の子を守ったり。
俺がそんなこと？
ええ。あなたはレスキュー隊員の鏡のような人でしたから。
There's something about what they were saying just feels off for some reason. Just didn't sound accurate. I'm a rescue squad captain? No, that's not true. I can tell. I'm bursting with the overwhelming sense that I've failed to accomplish something.
なあ、二人とも正直に話してくれないか？俺はそんな立派なやつじゃないだろ。何かもっと、いや、うまく言えないが。
何言ってるのさ。
そうですよ。あなたは正真正銘レスキュー隊の隊長です。
Their attempts to gloss things over is all the proof I need to come to a conclusion. These women are lying. Uh-oh. Just then. Oh, hello. Wataru? A scene from what I believe to be my past flashes through my head for a second. That's right. There's something I had to do for her sake. Oh no. Urged on by that impulse, I leap out of bed.
どこに行くの？
I ignore her question and run barefoot. Then I see a black-suited man blocking the door out of the room.
おい貴様、止まるんだ。
Man reaches into his pocket,
どけ
but I immediately knock him off his feet. Uh-oh. Good job. Good job, suit. I keep up the momentum and open the door.
隊長ダメだったな。待って行かないで渡せ。
I shake off their warnings and rush out of the room.
待て逃がすな何をしているおい
I see two more black-suited men out in the hallway. I manage to shove them away, too. Man, these suits are real good. I don't really get what's going on. Why are those men chasing me? At any rate, my goal is to run outside. I finally locate the exit, and just as I'm about to leave the hospital...
隊長さん止まりなさい。
Uh-oh. A sharp, sudden shout brings me to a halt. Girl boss. I turn around to see a woman standing there, accompanied by men in imposing suits.
なんだもしかしてさっきの連中はあんたの差し金か
冗談言わないで。あんな連中と私たちを一緒にしないでちょうだい。
まあなんだっていいどうせあんたも俺のことを捕まえに来たんだろ
違うわ。私はあなたを保護しに来たのよ。
何
As they're real in confusion, the woman orders the men to step back.
どう？これなら少しは警戒心を解いてくれる？
多少はなじゃあついでに一つ聞いてもいいか
何？
さっきあんた俺のことを隊長さんと呼んだろあんたも俺が何者なのか知っているんだな
ええ、よく知っているわ。記憶喪失の時のあなたもそうじゃない時のあなたも、それにあなたの人生についても調べさせてもらったわ。
だったら教えてくれ俺が何者なのか何か使命があったはずなのにそれが何だったのか俺は忘れちまってるみたいなんだおぼろげにしか思い出せない俺が何をしなければならないのか
The woman smiles faintly at my question.
それは知らない方がいいかもしれないわよ。記憶を取り戻してしまったら今のあなたは消えてなくなるかもしれない。
That's familiar.
それに私とも敵同士になるかもしれない。知ってしまったらもう後戻りはできないのよ。あなたはそれでも後悔しない？
Her solemn question leaves me speechless. I get the distinct feeling something like that has happened before. Even so,
構わない何も知らずに生きていくよりはきっといいはずだ
そう。今のあなたならきっとそう言うんじゃないかと思ったわ。では話してあげましょう。あなたがどんな人間でどのように生きてきたのかを。これから私が語るのがあなたの真実よ。
そして女は語り始めたある男の32年間の人生とそして彼女たちと共に過ごした9時間の物語をそれを聞き終え俺は気づく
none of this,
何も終わっていないということに
none of this is over yet. The common
胸
theme
の
here.
奥で熱い火が静かに燃え始めた気がした
The theme of these routes being that we didn't resolve Natsuhiko's story. She got sent off with Q. And we didn't resolve Watase's story because he still maintains his strong desire. And that's our last ending. Oh, scene title. Covered quite a bit. Oh. Still a few small scenes here? It's curious. Other than that, we got pretty much everything in Route D. Seems to be a few small scenes earlier on in this route. 2, 3, 4. That we missed for one reason or another. Everything after here has to be. It's got to be the extended episode. And we've got all of our endings. 3 normal endings, 4 good endings, and the true ending. I was gonna say, I'm surprised. Yeah, that was those were proper endings. It didn't give us a tip. But yeah. So the lesson to be learned here, I suppose, is that if you're willing to use BC to meet BC maliciously for a good cause, you'll never be able to move forward. You'll just keep going down that twisted path. And you'll never reach the true understanding. To be able to come together the way BC was always meant to do. Always meant to bring people together. By sticking to our guns and being willing to wield it maliciously, we never reached that true understanding. And in this first loop of good endings, we sort of continue the cycle. The cycle starting with Watase losing his memories, and the cycle starting with a member of the Tenkawa household seeing a phantom of one of their friends and living a normal life. Wasn't sure what to expect from these good endings, but again, like everything else we've seen in this game, there's an explanation that makes it go, oh, it fits into everything else this route is doing, bringing the story to an ultimate conclusion. It's just this is the wall where we never reach that true understanding, so we just perpetuate either person's cycle. Start it over again. Don't break out of it. Second round, we've reached a proper compromise with Watase. We get through the encounter without doing any lasting damage with BC. And there's at least a twinge of hope in all of it. Either Watase remembers everything, and Natsuko promises to keep up Watase's fight, or Natsuko agrees to go with Watase willingly, and Watase promises to protect him from the worst of Q. And Natsuko only skims Yuri's memory, meaning that she'll just wake up perfectly fine in a little bit. Yeah, just a natural progression. Based on that one small change of being horrified by the thought of wiping Watase's memory again. Amazing how little and inconspicuous that was. Yeah, we did it right the first time, baby. Not a monster. Hell yeah. that is all of our endings. That's going to be all the content, the extra content we're going to be showing off for the main routes of Route Double. Only thing left is to play the Extend episode, I think. I don't know how long that'll take, but... So we're just going to keep going until we get through it. But this is the end of the main portion of this video, of this series. Got the true end, got the rest of the bad ends. Anything after this is going to be bonus. So, hope you enjoyed the ride, because I said my piece in the actual ending video, but much there were occasional parts that really got my goat somewhat, just from how drawn out they seemed to be. Again, the game had such a knack for making everything important. Such a knack for bringing everything together. Making it make sense. Making it matter. Even stuff, little things like going clothes shopping. And Natsuko hemming and hawing about making friends. You make it through that long enough, then you find out that Natsuko was seeing phantoms. Natsuko has been psychologically blocked for 9 years. And struggling to truly open up to people in that time. Just... what a ride. I don't know what I have no clue what the Extend episode has to offer us, but at this point, the game has my full faith that it's going to be worth it. So I hope you stick around for that. Until next time, until then.